First stop has been to this moving September 11 memorial. I was in New York myself on 9/11, and I still remember vividly the experience of the horror of that day. I remember going on CNN that evening, international, and saying that we are all New Yorkers now. And it's a reminder of the solidarity that all people around the world feel in the face of terrorism. The solidarity that we are here to express today with the victims who span so many different nationalities, Americans and Indians and so many others were victims of 9/11, is a reminder, sadly, that we ourselves in India have been subject to the same wounds that you are seeing the scars of today in this very moving memorial. So we have come in a spirit of solidarity. We have come at the same time on a mission. We are traveling to 5 countries. We will be back in the US at the end of a journey that will take us to Guyana, Panama, Colombia, and Brazil before we return to Washington. And in these countries, we are hoping to be able to explain to the world how important it is for all of us to stand together against the scourge of terrorism. Just as the US showed such resolution and determination in the wake of 9/11, so too our country has stood up against the forces of evil who attacked us on the 22nd of April. We hope that a lesson has been learned by those who perpetrated this attack and by those who finance, train, equip, and direct them. But we want to communicate to the world that we will not be sitting quietly if this is repeated. And we want the world to understand that this is not a time for indifference, but for mutual strength and mutual solidarity, so that we can all unitedly stand up for the values that the United States has always cherished, the values of democracy, of human freedom, of diversity, of coexistence of people of different communities, none of which, sadly, is in the agenda of those who conducted such attacks. I'll stop there if you have any particular questions.
Call for zero tolerance for terrorism. That's what India has been highlighting, and that will be one of your messages when you go to all these other countries.
Absolutely.
And also, you mentioned the perpetrators need to be brought to justice, and those who provide safe havens to these terrorist organizations, Pakistan, there has to be accountability. So, can you share?
Well, I mean, the problem with the Pakistani behavior is that we have seen this now for almost 4 decades. In some ways, you can say it started with the very creation of Pakistan when they first sent terror groups across the border into Kashmir, disguised as tribes people. But subsequently, since 1989 in particular, when the Soviet Union withdrew from Afghanistan and the Pakistanis were able to turn their attention towards us, we have been systematically the victims of repeated attacks. It's not 1 or 2. If you take small attacks into account, then we're looking at a couple of dozen attacks almost every year. If you take the major attacks, where the victims, the civilian and other victims, are at least in 2 figures, we're easily talking about 25 major attacks in this century alone. So that we are not just sitting around allowing this to keep on happening to us. We would much rather not have to deal with this problem. We would much rather focus on our own growth, our own development. India has a great adventure in bringing its people into the 21st century, willing and able to take advantage of all the opportunities that this century offers for economic development, prosperity, high technology, and international cooperation. But if that is going to be thwarted or attempted to be thwarted by malign people with weapons, then we will answer them in kind. And that is also part of our message. Yes, perpetrators of terror should indeed be brought to justice, and we are not going to stop our hunt for those who did this latest atrocity. But we need to think about where these people are based, where they have safe havens, where they are trained, equipped, financed, guided, armed, and often directly directed to perpetrate these horrors. And they too should be accountable for what they have been doing.
So United States is also a permanent member of UNSC, and India has been trying to list TRF, the Resistant Fronts, as a terrorist organization. Do you think that your message and your global outreach will give Indians hope?
Well, as you know, there are these half-yearly reports to the UN Sanctions Committee. And as early as 2023, India had conveyed its concerns about the TRF, which is a known front of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. The Lashkar-e-Toiba is already a proscribed organization by the UN Sanctions Committee. It is also on the US designated terror list. So we have raised this in 2023. We raised it again in 2024. And now, sadly, we have to give the sad news because these people, as you know, actually claimed credit for this killing on the 22nd of April. They did so within 1 hour of the incident, and they repeated the claim the following day. So there is no doubt about the culpability. There is also no doubt as to who these people are, who they belong to, and where they're attached. So for us, this is something that the world must sit up and take notice of.
Mr. Tharoor, 3 of the countries that you're visiting are council members right now.
They are indeed. Well, 4. Because the US also is.
US is a permanent member.
Yeah.
And again, on this UN Security Council, we've seen, you've been part of the UN system for so long, you've seen how tedious in the process of listing these terrorist organizations can be. What will be your message, your conversations to ensure that the Council takes into account that the listings that India is providing, the detailed dossiers that India is giving on TRF are taken into consideration, and it's not another 10 years that TRF is listed, but...
As you understand, the process involves 15 members, and they usually work by consensus. At least one of the permanent members has been helpful to one of the non-permanent members who has a direct stake in this matter. I think you know what I'm talking about. And that's why during this period, it has not been easy for us to get that listing done. I think inevitably these things will happen. If you look back at many, many examples, I think there are something like 52 individuals and organizations based in Pakistan that at one time or the other have been listed by the UN Sanctions Committee. They didn't all happen overnight. It takes time. But at the same time, for us, the listing is only part of a process. There is something much more direct that needs to be done. And we are not going to confine ourselves only to listings, to diplomacy, to the production of international dossiers. We are also going to exercise our right to self-defense, which every country recognizes. The US has exercised that right itself on repeated occasions.
Mr. Tharoor, I have only one question. What are your expectations of the Indian diaspora in this particular situation?
Well, you are a very influential diaspora in this country. You are not just numerous, you are prosperous, you have the largest median income of any ethnic group in this country. You have an influential voice, you're active in public life, you're active in politics. We would like you very much to express the concerns you share with all of us who've come from India with your elected representatives. We would like you to help sensitize public opinion and political opinion in this country about what is going on and how wrong it is. And certainly we would expect the diaspora to partake of the messaging that we are here to do. So I'm very happy to see so many of you here because you are actually a force multiplier for us as well. We come and go, but you live here. And we want you certainly to please remind people around you of what the challenges are that India is facing.